Welcome guys, it's time to talk about an adventure, as you can see here. Yeah. The Blackrock Mountain Adventure for Hearthstone has been announced on PAX, and as the title, as it says, it's an adventure, so it's more like Nax with boss encounters and not an expansion with a whole bunch of new cards. As next Ramas, it will be released wing every week, with 5 wings in total. From a casual perspective, it's probably kind of fun. Like, the meta's shaken up, everything changes every week, nothing is really settled and set, and everyone is trying to make new cards work in their decks, and old decks, and new decks, and all this kind of stuff. Everyone is playing the new fancy encounters and getting funny videos out. But on the other hand, from a competitive perspective, my view is kinda because every deck concept that you come up with might be irrelevant 1 or 2 weeks later. Every tournament that you run during the time of the releases, which is like 5 weeks, like every tournament organizer have to consider to ban new cards because the new cards are not there in total, so the card pool is kind of imbalanced. Classes get their cards before other classes, and you don't have really time to practice with the new cards if it the wing releases on Wednesday and your tournament is on Thursday, so you would have to be pretty quick with all this. So from a competitive perspective, it's chaotic. Let's put it this way. It's might be quite chaotic, but we'll see how it works out. And it's of course fun that we have more PvE encounters that we can play with. So let's go over the things that we know so far. As I said, there will be 5 wings, and of course you can purchase them with money and gold again. If you purchase them with money and pre-order them, you will get the new fancy card bag down there. We'll talk about the card bags in a few seconds. The individual wings will cost 700 gold each, and there have been information that there will be no free wing on the large event, as it was with Next Ramas. So we'll all have to pay 3,500 gold if we don't want to purchase the adventure with money. Which should be okay to handle, because we have this month to... did I say that it's released in April? Like, Blizzard making it a tradition to announce their stuff like 1 month in advance. And we'll have this month to collect the gold that we need. And of course, it's given that it's a week by week release, we can also like gather gold in between these weeks, in between the releases. So overall, it's a price that is handleable, but of course takes away gold for other stuff like buying packs or something. I didn't do the math, but I expect all 5 wings to be similar to Next Ramas, the best gold per money ratio that you can get. So if you plan to spend money on the game, you probably want to buy all 5 wings instead of, let's say, packs or arena runs. So I guess what this tells us is play arena, do your daily quests, and gather some gold for the new adventure. That said, you get a pre-order card bag, which is the most right one here. And of course there will be the season card bag, I think it's for this season, right? And then the heroic Blackrock Mountain card bag. So for the guys of you who collect card bags, you may want to pre-order the Blackrock Mountain. It's probably nothing for me, but I expect the pre-order card bag to have some fancy magma animations right there. Okay, so there will also be a new board, of course, which is this one. Not much to say, probably. fits the theme, and there will be a lot of gimmicky stuff to play with. You can probably poke in some lava on the upper right corner. You can probably play with Rag's hammer up the upper left corner, and with the anvil in the upper left, in the lower left corner. So there will be some stuff to do if your opponent ropes every turn. But of course, the most exciting thing to talk about are these, the 5 new cards that have been revealed so far. Of course, it's always hard to predict things, especially for the future, and especially if we don't have the full set yet of new cards, because it's hard to evaluate card value if you don't have all the synergies available. But I know you people like card talks, and so we'll go over them quick. So at first we have, like, if you ever wondered why cards like Azure Drake and Ysera or Fairy Dragon had a dragon tag, well, that's why, because we'll see some synergy with it evolving. And also a new mechanic, which at least so far is exclusively works with dragons, and it's holding cards. So the Blackwing Technician that we have here, it's a 2/4 for 3 mana, which is okay but not exceptional. Cannot really kill something, dies to cards like Yeti and such, but it gains +1/+1 if you're holding a dragon while playing it. So that's the new mechanic, like holding a card to enable a battle cry, and all of a sudden it will be a 3/5, which is pretty good if we compare it stat-wise to cards like Spider Tank or Dark Cultist, which are like the top tier 3-drops right now, and maybe above Tinkertown Technician, of course, which also kills the Blackwing Technician as a 4/4. So overall, you want to buff this guy. And obviously it's just going to work in the dragon deck. I like actually the new mechanic. I like it for several reasons. First, it's nice that you don't have to play minions in order to make this card better. So you don't have to like play a fairy dragon and protect it to make this work, but you have to hold a dragon. Which, given that there are a lot of big dragons in the game, like Malagos, Ysera, Deathwing, will enable this card more often. Even if you like draw your late game early, it's not a disaster, because of cards like Blackwing Technician, you don't have to worry about them, because they will have an enabler for the whole game until turn 9, where you can actually play Ysera, which is nice. It also has a little drawback of telling your opponent what you have in your hand. Like, imagine you have like one card in your hand that you held the whole time, and you play a Blackwing Technician and it gets buffed, and it tells your opponent, okay, this guy probably has a late game dragon in his hand, which might be a Deathwing or a Ysera. So I might consider keeping my Silence or BGH around. So overall, I like this mechanic, and will make game even more interesting. So speaking about dragons, there's one dragon revealed so far. It's the Hungry Dragon, and it is so hungry that it brings its food right away with it and gives it to your opponent. So it's a 5/6 for 4 mana, which is huge, and the only card that you can compare to it is Pitlord at the moment. But it has a drawback of summoning a random 1-cost minion for your opponent. I probably should talk about these cards in Constructed and Arena. The Blackwing Technician will be subpar in Arena, but okay, not terrible. We already have cards like Illuminator or Goblin Sapper. They're not exceptional. They die to the usual 4-drops, maybe even to usual 3-drops and some help. But depending on how many dragons there will be with this adventure, you might actually end up holding a dragon at the time you play it. But my prediction is that there won't be so many dragons that the card pool will... all the dragons that we have so far are quite good, with cards like Fairy Dragon, Azure Drake, Twilight Drake, and Ysera and such, but my guess is it will most likely be played as a 2/4 most of the time, and it doesn't make it exceptional. Because it dies to stuff like Yeti, Ogre Magi, buff Tinker Town Technician, stuff. As for Constructed, you will only play it in a Dragon deck, of course. So, given that you only have to hold a card and not actually play it in a deck which consists mostly of dragons, it will most of the time be a 3/5. So that's really good and will probably be a staple in dragon decks if they work out. So for the Hungry Dragon, playing this guy in Arena should be huge, especially if you have something to protect it. Like if you have a 2/3 on the board and coin this guy out, you can kill the random 1-drop. As long as this isn't a shield bearer, and I think you're not too unhappy with the shield bearer on the other side either. So you can actually kill it, and then you have a 5/6 on the board. If you play it from behind, it gets a lot worse because because it gets in range of the usual for damage sources. If your opponent gets a 2/1, for example, like there are a few 4 mana, 4 damage effects like Bomb Lobber, like Flame Cannon, like Swipe, and if you summon your opponent a 2/1, then the Hungry Dragon dies to all these removal spells, which a Yeti wouldn't do, so it's a little bit worse than Yeti in this regard, but if you have a board and can kill the 1-cost minion right away, then it's actually pretty good. Also, it combos with other cards like Mind Control Tech or Acolyte of Pain. So I'm not sure how it will work out in Constructed. People will probably play it in a Dragon deck, of course, so this might be really scary. Especially if a card like Blackwing Technician is on the board and you follow it up with Hungry Dragon, and the Blackwing Technician can take out every 1-drop. Besides the Shield Bearer, but it's not a threat at all. So I'm curious how this will work out. In Arena, this card will be great. A 5/6 for is really good. It kills a lot of other guys, like Yeti. It's so hungry, it eats a Yeti, it eats a Senjin, it also eats Lothar, Siege Engine, Shield Maiden, and survives them also. So this card's usual worst case in Arena will be that it trades with the Yeti and the 1-drop that you summon. And the best case will be you can kill the 1-drop right away and have a 5/6, which is really huge. So I guess in Arena this guy will be awesome, and I guess in Constructed you don't want to play it in a deck like Jude, where you ramp up and play this on turn 4 and put it in range of, like I said, other removal spells or cards or minions. So the Yeti would do the job better there, but in every tempo deck that you can think of, where you are likely to have a 1-cost minion, or in Rogue, where you have a dagger, which most likely kills a 1-cost minion, this will be a card that we will see a lot. Speaking of Rogue, we have the Dark Iron Skulker as the only class card that is released so far. 5 mana for 3, deal 2 damage to all undamaged enemy minions. When I first saw this card, I thought it was deal 2 damage to all undamaged minions, but it doesn't even have a drawback. So, talking for Arena, this guy is like Matter Bomber without the downside that you can't play it if you're behind. So, I think in Arena this guy will be great. You can set up for it. It's better than like a Stormpike Commando, the 4/2 that deals 2 damage to 1 minion. So, you can set up for it. Kill bigger minions with it also, or damage them with the Skulker and then finish them off with other minions. Like big taunts or something. You can play this guy into a Senjin and then trade your 3/2 away or something. So overall, that's pretty good, and I guess in Arena, yeah, we'll see a lot of play. It's a rare, so you won't see too often, but I think it will be one of the good cards. Given that the rare slot, like if it was an epic, it could make up for a lot of bad cards in the epic slot. As a rare slot, it might be highly contested. So it's a good but not over-the-top card, I guess. Speaking of interesting cards, we have the Grim Patron, which is like the most exciting card that has been revealed so far. Because it's a 5 mana 3/3, and it better has a good battle cry, or a good effect. And whenever this minion survives damage, summon another Grim Patron. Which is kind of interesting. People were super excited when they saw it and were like, oh my goodness, you can combat with Deathspite and Whirlwind and Unstable Ghoul and Pyromancer, and you have a full board of Grim Patrons. I'm not this excited about the card, actually. A 3/3 body for 5 is super weak. And you just don't play it for 5 because you can protect it most of the time. So you want to play it on turn 5, or you want to play it for 5 and have a reasonable effect with it. So the best case scenario is you hold a Deathspite, play the Grim Patron, kill something, and then you have a 3/2 and a 3/3 for 5. Which isn't even that good, because you could just play Silver Knight, which is the 4/4 and the 2/2. Which is almost the same, but isn't this conditional. And given that Silver Knight doesn't see play so far, you kind of want to do it better with the Grim Patron, and that will be hard to do. And even if you end up filling your whole board with Grim Patrons, you also have the problem that most of them will be damaged a lot. So you have like a 3/1, a 3/1, a 3/2, a 3/2, and a 3/3 or something, and maybe your Pyromancer died. So overall, it's not this big of a deal. I mean, we've seen it with Quartermaster, Master for Battle into Quartermaster, that a bunch of 3/3s can be actually scary. But a lot of damaged 3x minions will be vulnerable to like cards like Consecration, Holy Nova, Swipe, and such. So, well, Swipe probably not, because you probably summon more Grim Patrons with it. But the ability should trigger before the others die. So you could swipe and then they trigger and don't summon more, and then 3 of them die or something. So overall, I'm not this excited about the card because it will be hard to pull off, but it's hard to say, especially with this card, without knowing the other cards. And I'm very sure that people will playtest it a lot, and we'll see how it works out. I think in Arena it will be even worse, because you can't set up a situation where it actually works. Like if you play a mage and a 7 mana and you ping it, well, you could still play Silver Knight for 5 and ping something else. So Arena will be pretty much terrible, I'd say. In Constructed it might work in a specific deck where, like, most likely Warrior, because you have all the self-damage stuff, and you might combo it with cards like Frothing Berserker and Unstable Ghoul and Armorsmith and Acolyte and stuff that Namani Berserker, maybe even Gorobashi Berserker, like stuff that benefits from being damaged, basically. So I'm curious if people will make it work, but as for me, it doesn't seem to be that great for now. Back to the Dark Iron Skulker. I think in Arena this will be great. In Constructed, I think I didn't say too much about Constructed yet. I'm not sure if it fits. Like, I think it fits current Oil Rock builds, for example, because you can like deal damage to your opponent's minions, which is great, and which gives you tempo. And I'm not sure if it can earn a spot right now, but I think it will work in maybe Tempo Rogue decks. Maybe they can make a comeback with the new cards. Or maybe it even fits the old Rogue deck. I'm pretty sure that people will playtest it a lot, and I think we will see it, at least at first, for quite some time. Being tested in different decks. So the last card is Legendary. It's Rend, blackhand, a 7 mana 8/4, which is threatening but can easily be killed. And if you're holding a dragon, destroy a legendary minion. So okay, it's the same mechanic as with the Blackwing Technician, so you want to play it in a dragon deck. In a dragon deck you also play a lot of... I would imagine that you play a lot of endgame dragons, like I said, Ysera for example. So by turn 7, you're most likely to have one of these big dragons in your hand. So this will work out quite fine. Thinking about current decks, most of them run at least one legendary, so the Rend Blackhand will be like a huger BGH, probably. The only problem is that the legendary, which is mostly run in most decks, even tempo decks like Magmage and Hunter, it's Dr. Boom. And even if you kill Dr. Boom, you have 2 Boom Birds against an 8/4, which isn't too great. But it still has to be dealt with, and especially in a slower meta, this will work very good. Especially, like, you can kill, I don't know, Dr. Boom with it, and then the 8 attack is enough to kill a Ragnaros, for example. If it survives somehow. So I guess this will make, in a dragon deck, in a dedicated dragon deck, this might take a spot for another hard removal card that you would use in the late game anyways. Like maybe Black Knight, maybe even Hex or Polymorph. Maybe BGH, because you most likely use it on big minions that are legendaries anyways. So I guess it will earn a spot in dragon decks and might work fine there also. As for Arena, this card is pretty much irrelevant. I mean, it's a legendary, you don't draft them too often. It requires you to hold a dragon, which will most of the time not happen, and it requires your opponent to have a legendary minion out, and all of this together, it won't happen. So this card is pretty much irrelevant for Arena. Overall, these cards all look pretty interesting, and I can see them work more or less in more or less decks, and I'm excited. Especially about the PvE encounter that I will of course play, and stream and record and such. Of course I will put in my obvious AI mistakes counter again. I hope that the AI is better than the last time, and I also hope that there will some incentive to actually play the stuff again. Like, it doesn't have to be a real incentive, but that the encounter are so much fun that you actually want to play them once in a while. As for next Rammus, sometimes I just play the Hunter class challenge just to see what comes out from a bunch of web spinners, but that's like the only exception from the rule that next Rammus doesn't have any replayability value so far. So I hope that this will get better with Blackrock Mountain Adventure, and of course I will play them, put it on the channel of course, and we'll keep you updated about new cards, and we'll talk about them because I know you people like it. So that said, all of you have a nice weekend and stay tuned for more news. Thanks for watching and see you around next time. Bye bye.